Brilliant. So as my presentation sort of titles on that, I want to go over what the games industry actually is, as well as how to get your foot in the door. To my understanding, everybody here is brand spanking new to the industry, and they're just looking to try and find their feet. Also, how they actually do their applications into the games business, because it's quite a daunting one. I'm already recognising a couple of names who I've seen a couple of workshops that I've delivered for like Inter Games and UK and stuff like that. So it's really nice to see a few familiar faces. But fundamentally, this is what we're going to be covering today. It's first off, why the games industry, what it's actually like to be in it, what is the makeup of all the roles that are inside there, because there is a massive misconception. I've had a lot of, should we say, heated debates with university professors and other people working inside of education about the roles within the games industry, as well as how they title their courses, because I've just come back from Develop Brighton. This is where I got this flipping COVID. Some ragamuffin brought COVID to the party down in Brighton, and unfortunately, 4 of the 5 team members that we took along are all suffering from it now. But anyway, while I was down there, I got an opportunity to chat to an absolute boatload of students, and every single person, regardless of their discipline, came up to me and said, I'm a games designer, I'm a games designer, I'm a games designer. Oh, you guess what I do? I'm a games designer. And then when I really dug down into it, some of them had the wrong titling complete, but unfortunately, they've just been ill-educated from their university sort of point of view, and the way their sort of course has been marketed has been slightly incorrect. So I want to address that. And then finally, we're going to, right at the end, we're going to discuss what are the important things, how to get yourself noticed, what it is we look for at nDreams, just to sort of show you a little bit of a peek underneath the bonnet of the hiring sort of process. So I'm hoping today that you will have a better understanding of the roles and what roles that you ideally want to go for, as well as what it's actually like on a day-to-day point of view, as well as getting your foot in the actual door as well and making your application as strong as humanly possible. So with that being said, by the way, I am open to questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to fire it in the chat. Hopefully Jordan can be my lovely assistant and just message me a few of the questions in case I don't see them, and I'll just answer them on an ad hoc basis. But there will be some time at the very end just to go through a bit of a Q&A session anyway. Cool beans. With that being said, let's dig into it straight away. First things first, why the games industry? This is hopefully an easy one. If you're a gamer yourself, why not get paid for doing something that you do in your hobby in your spare time? This is something that is probably the strongest thing I try to advise anybody, regardless of what career path they're going into. I wish I coined this phrase, but I really didn't. A gentleman a lot more intelligent than I did. He's a gentleman called Simon Sinek. I recommend checking him out if you ever get an opportunity. He did a fantastic talk called Start With The Why. It's aimed at businesses, but it very much applies to your personal values as well. He also wrote a book on Start With The Why, as well as Leaders Eat Last. They're really absolutely fascinating, as well as very cutting edge of how we should be, and how we effectively communicate with each other as well. But fundamentally, everybody should start with a why. And what I mean by this is, don't go into a job role just with the financial implications. That's it, just looking for a wage, or on the back of somebody else's. I know it's a bit of sweet hypocrisy me saying this, but on the back of somebody else's advice. I can't stress enough, I wasted about 10 years of my life pursuing the wrong career, and being very frank. So initially I started my career out in IT, specifically desktop support, as well as then network engineering, mainly on things called like Wi-Fi mesh networks. Where this all kind of came upon was when I was sort of 14, I had a very sort of cool sort of upbringing where between the age of 11 and sort of 18, I lived in Tenerife despite the northern accent. Which gave me a fantastic opportunity to meet hundreds and hundreds of people. But I lived on a tourist location, and this location meant that I had no permanent friends. I was meeting new friends every sort of 2 weeks. This was before the days of like sort of really strong sort of social media presence, as well as other digital presence as well. It was back to the days of handwriting notes or sending text messages on numbered keypads and all that sort of jazz. So connections were made and lost on quite a regular basis. However, until a friend of mine came over, and he's called Jimbo. To this day, 20 years strong, we're still mates and we still game together. But he introduced me to a platform called MIRC. I've never used this before, but this is an old chat network from way back in the 90s, early 2000s for basically hackers or gamers. I'd never been a competitive gamer. I'd always been a console gamer at that point. I'd had the Master System, the Mega Drive. Oh God, like going back in time a little bit to the NES and the SNES. I also had them. And then my dad said, "Enough's enough. You're paying for your own now. You're gonna buy your own." So I bought myself a PlayStation 1. Yeah, I know, man, the Mega Drive. I had my version one that was the one with Alex the Kid built into it. Cheers, Nathan, for the remembering on that one. I feel less old now that you just said that. Thank you. So yeah, I was always into console gaming. By the way, best console, and I will argue the absolute toss with the Dreamcast. I'm a Dreamcast fanboy through and through. That is El Numero Uno console. It was so iconic. It was ahead of its time, and people don't realize the Dreamcast 2 was actually Xbox, the first original Xbox. Sony sold all the hardware across to Microsoft to try and give a bit of a leg up into the console realm. But anyway, I digress. Always been a massive gamer. However, then at 14, I was always, being very frank, sneaking out of school to go to the local arcade where they had PC setups, specifically Counter-Strike 1.2. This is before the idea of Steam had even popped into the head of Valve. Anyway, I was down there as much as humanly possible. My dad got sick of me trying to ditch school, so he rewarded me for my efforts and bought me a PC to try and keep me in school, which it kind of worked. So I was gaming a heck of a lot. It became a way of life for me. Despite being in a lovely sunny environment and swimming pools on there, I spent the majority of the time indoors, that cliche, hunched over a keyboard playing Counter-Strike. Because of this, my parents are hella supportive. Do you know what? Kudos to them. But they just weren't educated. Thomas coming in strong with a Nintendo Wii was and still is the best console. Oh, let's take this conversation on the chat afterwards. I'll do some stretches and warm up. But yeah, so my parents were absolutely stellar, and they saw me on my computer 24/7, and they assumed that it was IT that I loved, and it was computers that I absolutely loved. But it wasn't. They were just a vessel for me, but I didn't even realise. So I went down this route because my mum had said so, and they're so supportive. I was like, I must, because I love playing on computers. That must be my why. However, I went down the computer. I did an apprenticeship. I did multiple different qualifications. Only to 24 it was. I was coming home depressed. I was anxious. I was stressed. I didn't like my job. I found out I was coming home. I was gaming, but I was going to work and I was just dreading going to work each morning, which for a 24-year-old, I didn't want to do that. And that was basically 10 years wasted of my life. Luckily enough, it led me onto my path, which, do you know what? Captain Hindsight gave me so much job satisfaction that was helping others, which I started 10 years ago, never looking back. But I wasted 10 years of my life, and I don't want anybody else to have that. So regardless of what anybody says, start with your why. Why do you want to get into the games industry? Make sure that is a personal statement that is true to you, not anybody else. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Just make sure you love doing what you're doing. Don't go for, if you do want to work into the games industry, don't just settle inside the games industry. Don't just try to hit the first job straight away. Really work on, we're going to go through it later on, your portfolio, and get the job that you want to do, because when you get paid for doing something you love, it doesn't feel like work. Like this to me doesn't feel like work. I mean, I'm getting to chat with some cool people about games. I mean, and I get paid for it. So I'm in freaking win right there. And I want you guys to have the exact same opportunities. But that being said, moving away from the deep philosophical sort of view of why, being very frank, I've worked in some real cool companies. I've worked for Apple, I've worked for Samsung, Facebook, Google, some real high-end tech companies who have always been advocates of company culture. However, I have never felt so more welcome, so inclusive, so, do you know what? Willing to share and passionate and driven and enthusiastic set of individuals than I have inside the games industry. Pretty much every single week, I leave the office inspired by what people have said or what they're doing and just who they are as people, because they have found their why. It's a cliche for a flipping reason, that everybody bloody loves what they do because they're making something cool and fundamentally they're passionate. But outside of just the people, I can't speak for every single studio, but our studio, for instance, has an amazing friendly culture. Like at Apple, I was there for 6 years. I gained 2 friends. Well, actually, 1 acquaintance and 1 friend. Already at nDreams, I've been there for a year and a half. I've got several people that I can call up on a moment's notice for a hand, and they'll be there straight away. Bit of an example of this, about 3 weeks ago, when we had all the train strikes, I travelled to and from Cambridge to Farnborough, which is about a 2.5-hour journey. I don't do that every day. I stay down there during the week. But regardless, I was on my way home back up to Cambridge, and all the train strikes kicked off saying, oh, all delays have kicked in now. Good luck trying to get home. Welcome to the Great British Rail Network right there. Anyway, I just let my head back and went, oh, excuse my language, but oh, bollocks. Literally, the second I said that, the HR manager she separated the screen. She's called Vicky. She's freaking cracking. She just separated the screen. She went, is it the train strikes? And I went, yeah. She went, right. If your train's delayed for more than an hour when you get to the train station, give me a ring. I'll get Keith, her husband, to come pick you up. We'll fire up the barbecue. You can stay around mine for a couple of nights until the trains have all simmered down. You're more than welcome. She did that without even a moment's hesitation. And that, do you know what, summarises the people as well. One of the lead programmers called Clemens, absolute sweetheart of a gentleman. Me, him, his partner and my partner, we've all double dated together numerous occasions. They've stayed around my house, and we've been to Cambridge, we've been to Windsor, London together, all this sort of jazz. And that's kind of sort of summarises the games industry's people as in a nutshell. Because they're so driven and passionate, they believe in who they are, they're staying true to themselves, and because of that, they're just goddamn friendly people. Okay, don't get me wrong, there are bad eggs in any realm, but I've not bumped into any yet. It is insane. So I'm just dropping a comment from Nathan. I love the sound of the environment of the games industry. Oh, mate, yeah, I can't show. Well, also the whole cliches that are there. By the way, we have a ping pong table, pool table, Xbox Ones and PlayStation 5s, and other things that I can't talk about, unfortunately, just scattered around the office. And it's not siloed. You don't have like all art sticking together, or code sticking together, or QA, or music, or production, or me, for instance, downstairs in the operations team. No, everybody's completely open. Everybody goes to lunch together. It's exactly that. It sounds like it's a massive bloody family. And you get that no matter where you go. And like I said, I've just been in Develop Brighton. And everybody down there have messaged me saying, oh, thank you for chatting to me. It was lovely to see you again. Me and Dom Shaw, who heads up the D&I aspect of Yuki, on a regular basis, bumping into each other. We're not brothers in arms now. It is just like that. Yeah, Jack, exactly that. Again, you've done it, Develop. You felt, despite us all being packed into the Hilton, I felt COVID dripping off the floor, off the ceilings of that place. What a week to pick the air, to fix the air, to upgrade the aircon. The hottest week. Freaking Hilton. Anyway, I read about that for hours. You felt that as well. I was walking around in a vest 24/7. I looked like trailer trash. Anyway, that's a little bit about what the culture's like as well. I could rant about this for hours, but you know what? You want some bit more information than just this. So let's crack on. So let's look at what makes up the games industry, because people have misconceptions. Everybody, like I said, everybody came up to me and said, I'm a games designer at Develop, and I lost count, in all fairness. So let's look at what game design actually consists of. So let's look at the key disciplines of the development team first off. So we've got the 5 key ones. Code, i.e. programming, the design team, art team, audio, and QA. Let's just start from QA side and work our way backwards. So QA, you all know what QA does. They test stuff out. These guys are bloody ninjas. By the way, tip, never game personally and for fun with a QA person because they will break your favorite game. You keep getting switched back to the first slide. Has it jumped back to the correct one called Meet the Development Team now? That's the slide. God, I just realised you've missed a bunch of slides. Can you see the right one now? Yeah, that's better. Brilliant. Yay, we're back on track now. Yes, it's visible. Brilliant. Thank you for the feedback, guys. I need that. Otherwise, I have no idea. Yeah, Meet the Development Team. Perfect. So, like I was saying, these are the 5 key disciplines. Yeah, like I said, never play any game with QA. Story time. On Christmas, by the way, bit of a joke time. I know we take the mick of the games has been not very. It's not very diverse, and we're trying to implement that at the moment. This is something that we've got a massive push on, and it is predominantly middle-aged white dudes. Obviously, I'm not helping that stat whatsoever. But it seems that everybody's called Dan. By the way, just to give you a heads up, I'm again helping that stat a little bit as well. But our lead QA person is also called Dan. Our IT person is also called Dan. Our creative director is also called Dan. The list goes on. But anyway. We said to each other on Christmas week, we all had it off. And because we're mates, we was like, let's game together. And Far Cry 6 had just recently come out. And I am a massive open sandbox gamer. Anything like that, other Far Cry since Far Cry 3 onwards, yes, please. So numero uno game is Shenmue on Dreamcast. That is still God tier for me now. Anyway, we said, let's play Far Cry 6 and let's just binge it in a week. I'm not joking. Within 30 minutes, we'd got to end game content already because he found a way to glitch underneath the map and then appear in the city centre. I was like, what the chuff, Dan? Thanks for ruining this game as well. But that's QA in a nutshell. They need to find these faults and they do a goddamn good job at it. If it wasn't these guys, we'd never have any functioning games whatsoever. So QA is a cracking opportunities. Next team, ones that always get forgotten about, and that's the audio team. And this kind of consists of 2 key areas. One of my tutors is called Dan. Yeah, we get around, dude. Do you know what? Dan's and Matt's, they seem to be the two continuous names. I think in the 70s, mothers just got bored and named everybody Dan and Matt and thought, that'll do, why not? Anyway, the audio team, this now can be split into 2 key areas. You've got audio designers, and that can consist of anybody that's done sound production or audio production in some realm at university. It doesn't necessarily have to be like audio for game. However, then you get audio programmers who know things like WYs and Fmod, and they know how to interact with Unreal engines or Unity engines, depends what your engine of choice may be. And you can kind of approach it from 2 different angles. Being very frank, audio designers, it's so saturated. Lean on, get a little bit of programming experience behind you as well, and make that transition between the 2. Be a bit of a generalist in the audio trade. Look, that'll work beautifully. Right then, let me define these 3 because these are the biggest. Because everybody says I'm game design, but then they talk about programming, or they go I'm game design, but then talk about environmental art. Let me define the roles clearly. So first things first. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when games development was brand spanking new, there used to be 2 teams. There used to be the code team and the art team. Think of these like squabbling siblings. You've got on one side, I want to make sure the performance is as good as possible. It's got to be as efficient. Then you're on the other side, yeah, but it's got to look pretty and look beautiful and nice and all that sort of stuff. And these 2 do not get along. Because you've got one wanting to do performance, one wanting to make everything as pretty as possible, which ruins all the performance. So these 2 just bicker each other. Blah, 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 blah. I want to do that. I want to do this. So code, program everything. Art, make everything look pretty. That includes VFX, animation, lighting, character art, 3D prop art, 2D art, concept art, UI and UX. UI, UX, by the way. If you want to get an easy clap, go to that side because the industry's calling out for it. But they're the 8 disciplines of art. So anything that you use, things like Maya, 3ds Max, Photoshop, Illustrator, all inside the art realm. You've then got the programmers. I mean, I hope I don't need to explain that one to you, but they're the guys that know all the coding language and sit there and do that continuously. You've then got designers, which everybody says they are. So let me explain what a designer is. If you've got a God complex, you're a designer, by the way. If you love telling people what to do and you've got some bossy boots inside of you, guess what? You're a designer or a producer. Either one or two. It can go either way. But what designers are set there to do is set the rules, basically. You've got different levels of designers, but predominantly they do the same thing at just different levels. They create the rules of the game. They make what is the game the game. Certain games have got to have values. They've got to be defined of what style of game. They've got to have certain rulings, and they set all these characteristics out. They then say to the coder, okay, this is a game that we're making on mobile, so it's got to be hyper efficient. That means artists, only a few polygons, thank you very much. Or versus, we're doing, I don't know, development for a PS5 game. So you're like, artists, go crazy. And then they can flutter off, and then you say to the developers, okay, you've got this hardware to work with, etc., etc. They then dictate exactly what everybody should be doing at what instance. You've got different levels of this. You've got things like gameplay design, which look at the overarching values of the game, such as this is an open world exploration game or roguelike game or a tabletop game or is a puzzle game, etc., etc. They will then also... They then get level design, who will then take what the gameplay want. So they say, okay, by the end of this level, they need to have learned how to do X, Y, and Z. They will then plan out that level to learn X, Y, and Z. Yep, I can turn my video off. Boop. There we go. Cool beans. Is that a bit better? Sweet. So then, there's then got level design, like I say, who set each individual level up to what the sort of required outcome is. You've then also got narration design, which is they create the whole story as such. Some beautiful examples of this is obviously things like Last of Us, which has got a stellar bit of narration to it. Me personally, I love Far Cry 3 and Shenmue, so they're up there for my top two as well. Some beautiful bit of narration design. So yeah, I hope that explains what design is a little bit better. So that's development in a freaking nutshell. But game studios don't stop there. They also have, what today's is, soup. Other areas such as human resources, publishing, finance, the IT team and office management. So don't just think as a hindrance on, okay, I've got to get into development, I've got to understand code, I've got to understand some in-depth piece of software to be a part of this amazing culture. No, far from. I don't have any of those skills. I love people. I love helping people out. Hence why I'm here. Luckily enough, they said they wanted somebody to be an L&D manager. I was like, brilliant, that's right up my avenue. I love games, I love people. My two worlds collide. And then that was it. So think of things like publishing. If you're into social media marketing, if you're a videographer, if you're a graphic artist, if you're a brand manager, if you're a social media mogul, then publishing team is for you. Again, I've never met a more driven and passionate bunch of people. Our community manager, Jimmy Bowers, he's only been in the industry about a year and a half. What a bloody sweetheart. He should have started in this industry from the ages of 16 when he started his career, because he's just built this place. He's such a lovely person. But if you have that high engagement aspect, then that's another outlet for yourself, is down the publishing side. But then you can't forget about the finance team. We need to get paid. The human resource team, which I'm a part of. So think about learning and development or internal communications or recruitment or HR themselves. HR is a complete different breed in the games industry. It's more about being supportive rather than telling people off. You've also got the IT crowd and the office management side. But another team that I always forget to mention, production. If you have a proper bossy boots about you, get into production. If you like a good spreadsheet and organization, get into production. again, if it wasn't for production, nothing would ever get made because, well, everybody, it's like herding cats in the games industry because everybody's so passionate and driven. Everybody just wants to do and run down their own sort of lane, and production have got to keep them all in check. I don't want to say whip and ball and chain, but they're borderline on that side. If you are wanting to get into production, I would recommend more things like project management costs and stuff like that, because there's no necessarily there's no formal route into it. So. Cool. Has anybody got any questions about the roles that I've just been talking about? I'll give it 10 seconds in chat if to see anything type. Cool. I'm moving on then. What do human resources do? Oh, you're the first person in all of my talks that I've delivered, probably about 40 or 50 to ask this. Thank you, because I'm a part of that team, and you know what? I need my ego stroking. So there's the HR team. What they're predominantly there for, and this is where the misconception, because people only see HR when there's bad stuff in other companies, because that's when HR are wheeled out, when they've got to follow procedures and stuff like that. However, our HR is the complete opposite. They are there for people. They don't care about upper management. They don't care about what the bottom line of the company is doing. They just care about people. So HR have put together like all of our benefits and health packages. Our HR managers set up a thing called the duvet day, which is my favorite thing in the entire world. Every person at nDreams gets 2 days where, do you know what? Do you know when you wake up and you just cannot be bothered? Where you're like, do you know what? Massive CBA, I'm going to call a sickie. We don't want people to do that or lie to us. We're just like, do you know what? We're human. We have these problems too. So HR put 2 duvet days in, and all you have to do is text the HR number going, duvet day. We don't ask any questions, and it's your day off. And it can be literally on the morning of the day that you want it off. They've set up things like life insurance and health packages. Like we've got gym memberships and all this sort of stuff. They've created a culture, and that's what HR should do. Is they should create a culture of, well, whatever you want your business to be. Luckily enough, we have a culture of collaboration, empowerment, and balance, and that's what our HR team sort of do, as well as the normal things they do, the normal contracting. So when people are starting work with, they set up a contract up, as well as all the appraisal aspects and performance tracking and all that sort of jazz as well. But fundamentally, they are there for us. If we've got a problem, I go to HR straight away, because they're always my first point of call. They set things like pension schemes and stock share schemes up. We have every other day seems to be an excuse to get some cake or pizza or something in the office. It was Gay Pride Month, so literally every single day we celebrated some form of a person inside of the LGBTQ plus community. They do all this sort of extra stuff. Does that explain what they do a little bit? I could rant for hours about them. Pizza and Pride. Check out our Instagram. It literally got loads on it. Cool beans, as well as learning and development. So inside of the human resources team, that's where I sit as well. What I do at learning and development is I basically ask every single individual at nDreams, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? So what's their next progression path? And we build a development plan sit to that. For instance, somebody said, oh, I want to be a lead in the next year. However, they've never led a team before. So I put them on fast track management training. They've got 3 books to read. They've got a mentorship with 2 other managers as well. And there's loads of other bits and bobs that we put into play for them just to get them up to speed of where they want to be. It's all about succession and succession planning and supporting the people around us. And that's fundamentally what HR do. Oh, thank you for asking that. By the way, Jordan, I'll PayPal you across 10 quid for queuing up that question for me. Thank you. Cool. On to the next one. I keep using the wrong mouse as well. There we go. Let's try this one instead. So the important thing, by the way, there's only sort of 15 minutes left. Thankfully, your ears will stop bleeding very shortly. The important thing. Now, this is important. This is a huge one. and I don't want to discredit any schools whatsoever, but this is quite a broad term now. Nobody inside the industry cares about what qualification you got and what level you got it at. Nobody cares. I can't remember the last time I looked at somebody's university. Genuinely now. The top tier, god tier sort of application is all about the portfolio. Regardless of what discipline you're going into, your portfolio will reign supreme. This is disciplines within the development team. Obviously, outside of that, like operations, HR, and stuff like that, it falls on something else, which I'm going to cover. But portfolio, what the industry is looking for is not the most polished, beautiful output ever. No, we're looking to find out if you understand the process. So having a portfolio with 5 to 6 examples on there from start to finish. For instance, if you're an environment artist, we want to see what the concept was. And if that was a drawing on a napkin, so be it. And then what the sort of the specifications of that environment was, what the stages was compared to a mock-up to an alpha to final product, and that entire sort of pipeline and such. Any problems that you've had or you've faced inside this development process, documenting that is key as well. So again, it gives us a great understanding that you understand the process. Also, a timeline. If a project is taking you years to do, we're not going to be impressed, regardless of how polished it is, because if we give you a job and it takes you 8 months to do, where it takes a normal individual 1 month to do, guess who we're going to hire? The 1 month individual. So you have an example, 5 to 6 examples of clear process-driven examples, as well as a full timeline, is so bloody strong. Just a little bit of a tip. If you're a coder, use itch.io. If you're an artist, obviously ArtStation. If you're a designer, create your own website on like wix.com or cccard.co or something along those lines. It just looks a hell of a lot more professional. Everybody knew about the portfolio. This is what universities do give you very well, is time. Being very frank, if you was to leave university at sort of 16 or 18, leave education, should I say, at 16 or 18, and then go straight to a workplace. When you finish work, the last thing you want to do is start work on your portfolio. You want to game yourself and you want to relax and chill. So universities give you that. It gives you an opportunity to actually build that portfolio. So I don't want to discredit it at universities as a whole. While I'm talking about education, there are other forms of education out there as well. If you're self-driven, education might not be for you. If you can set your own tasks and your own mile markers and your own agendas, brilliant. You can create your own portfolio. But there's beautiful things called boot camps out there right now. So these are springing up left, right, and center. And these are perfect for people just leaving college or looking to pivot their career. I was a pivoter. I wish I knew this, Captain Hindsight, right? But I wish I knew this information when I was mid-20s. But what a boot camp does is they interview you, assess where your skills are, then build a curriculum and get you to a place where you're basically studio ready. And that's from both a skills level as well as, I hate using the term, but soft skills or behavioral skills point of view as well. And they generally give you like mentors, so you've got active feedback and all that sort of jazz. So you've got boot camps, you've got traditional education, but on the horizon are apprenticeships. Oh, apprenticeships! They work beautifully in the games industry because you're working live and you're building your portfolio and you're getting paid for it at the same time. I mean, what's not to love about that? In the UK, we are hella conservative, which, being very frank, pisses me right off. And apprenticeships are looked down as like a second-class citizen. And they're thought of as they're not as good, but that's a complete lie. We've just had a new standardization of a level 7, which is a master's equivalent of programming, just be approved and starting to be rolled out into games, as well as grads in games are all heading this off at the moment. There's an animation one, there's a community manager one, and they're now looking into environment art as well as VFX in apprenticeships as well. So that's another alternative route into there. You don't end up with debt. You actually get paid to learn, which is a no-brainer in my opinion. But yeah, so think of some alternative routes. So outside of education and portfolio, the one that gets missed the most, everybody puts priority of portfolio, then CV, networking qualifications, and at the very bottom, cover letters. Cover letters get missed so bloody much. But they are hella important, especially to us at nDreams. nDreams, we're a behaviours-led company, not a skills-led company. Oh, I've got a question. Yeah, unfortunately, with audio for games, it's so freaking. Sorry, just had a question from Adrian. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I don't, I'm so sorry. Next time you see me, give me a slap. I don't mind. He said, I've personally not seen many apprenticeships into audio for games, especially in the UK. Since I graduated there, I searched for months for apprenticeships and hardly found many. You're very true. Us as a country, we are crap when it comes to apprenticeships, and we're only now starting to really start pushing them. Audio for games apprenticeships, you are literally scratching at that. I've not seen personally any. My personal background is audio as well. I've got an undergrad and a master's degree in both of these. And I wish I had I looked for audio in games as well, and not a chance in high hell. This is why right at the start I mentioned about the different disciplines. When it comes to audio, focus on programming rather than just the design aspect and push that side, because then that gives you an in, and then that'll lead into the design thing naturally anyway. So are you FMod trained, WWise trained? If not, I recommend going to these websites. I'm just going to type them in chat for you. Actually, I won't. I'll just Google these even. So WWise and FMod just invested absolute boatloads into their learning platforms, and you can basically learn all the programming side. I'm not joking. Within about 3 weeks, you'll be comfortable with it all. Yeah, with WWise, and then use FMod as well. Cool. So anyway, back onto it. So we put a ranking of portfolio, CV, qualifications, all that way above cover letter. Like I've mentioned, at nDreams, we're a behaviours-led company. Because of this, we hire for people, not for skill sets. And a lot of companies now are switching across to this model where they're realising it's easier to train a skill than it is to train a behaviour. A lot of you guys have been at university and you've probably done a team project, and I can pretty much guarantee all of you have had the arsehole in your group, and you know how impactful that is. By the way, if you don't know if you had an arsehole in your group, guess what? You were the arsehole in your group. By the by, you know how disruptive that can be. And it's easier to train somebody that goes, do you know what? I don't know how to do this, but I want to learn it. Can you help me? Compared to the person that goes, I know everything, but then doesn't do anything whatsoever. So, cover letters. This is something that get missed. If your cover letter starts with, I'm a young, ambitious, highly enthusiastic individual, delete it now. Because that is the most overused opening statement I have ever seen in my entire life. Jesus. Let's look at it from a scientific point of view. Fun enough, I was just talking about this in the group chat for Snappy Gurus, for the presenters for this section. Over 80% of communication is done non-verbally. This is why it's killing me not having a camera right now, because you're not picking up on the body linguistics. Okay, you're hearing the pitch, the tone of my voice, but you're not seeing the expressions on my face, all of this sort of stuff. You're losing a lot. There's a reason when we communicate with people, we have these quote unquote gut feelings about individual. They could be saying all of the right things, but you could leave there going, do you know what? I just didn't trust that person. Or, you know what? I didn't feel right about that person. That person feels weird. There's something off about them. What that is is one side of your brain taking in all these non-verbal communications and then presenting you with a solution. But let me get factual to it. Let me get quite scientific to the point. We've all heard of the whole concept of the left and the right side of the brain, but let's really sort of nail that down. That's the neocortex and the limbic side. The neocortex is what separates us from all of the animals out there. It gives us our higher thinking functions, our verbal skills, our conscious comes from our neocortex. Our higher thinking as a whole comes from our neocortex. However, our neocortex also has the ability to do things like lie and stuff like that. However, on the opposite end of the spectrum is our limbic brain. It's what handles all of our emotions, all the beautiful stuff. It makes us us. It's all of our creative side, that quote unquote side of stuff. But that also handles things like our body linguistics, the pitch and the tone. However, your limbic brain doesn't handle things like articulation. So when it picks up all these non-verbal cues, it doesn't know how to articulate to your neocortex to go, do you know what, I don't trust it. So the best it can muster up is a quote-unquote gut feeling. That's how we communicate from a one-to-one basis. However, when it comes to communicating in the business realm or in the work realm, we only use our neocortex because neocortex handles things like facts and stuff like that. And that's fundamentally what our portfolio is, our CV is. This is what I am. This is what I can do. Are you going to hire me? It's just not very inspirational. So what we need to do is we then now need to communicate who we are to an employer because, well, kind of like echoing what Lauren mentioned, behaviours over skill by a country mile. How do we articulate our behaviours without going, I'm a young, ambitious, highly enthusiastic individual, hire me please? No, that doesn't work. So how can we get our true us across? And that is what a cover letter is for. This is coming back into the start with your why. Your CV and your cover letter tells us why you want to apply for this role. Why is it you want to, in the games industry, why are you putting yourself forward? And we need to articulate that. I'm going to give you a bit of an example of this. I'm going to tell you what I am. I'm going to tell you why I do something. And I want you guys to tell me option 1 or option 2 in chat for me. Option 1 is this. I'm a learning development manager with 10 years experience. I worked at Apple, Samsung, Google. I love gaming. I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's everything about what I do. What I do is an L&D manager. What I do is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What I love is gaming. However, let me now talk about why. So I've mentioned why. Gaming has been who I am since I've been a kid. Because I wasn't able to sort of gain these long-term friendships and connections when I was living over in Tenerife, my gaming community became my long-standing friendships, and they are still to this day. Like I mentioned, Jimbo, we still play games together now. We play Rust together. Please don't judge me too much on that one. But we're still in cahoots. However, I love people. And this really came apparent was because when I quit IT, because I realized that was not for me, I started work at Apple just on the shop floor initially for the first 3 months. But anyway, I started then, I became a trainer. While at one of the stores in Birmingham in the West Midlands, I was there just helping out a few other trainers. And this gentleman came in called John. Anyway, John walked up to me and said, hey, this was like 10 years ago. So before the days of like Moonpig and places where you can get stuff printed and sent to you. John said, I want to create a photo album. I was like, not a problem, buddy. If anybody knows this, but in Max on the photo app, you can actually get Apple to send you and print you off a really high standard in copy photo album. So I was like, not a problem, John. I've got your back. We sat down for 2-3 hours, busted through it all. He was happy as Larry. I was happy as Larry. He buggered off. Cracking good time. Anyway, this was in the November. In the February, I was back at Birmingham again. Anyway, I saw John come in. I didn't remember his name, but I recognized his face. He looked at me, pointed towards me, and then pretty much sprinted. Bear in mind, he's like, must be 70, sprinted towards me and gave me the biggest freaking hug. Oh my gosh, I love hugs. So I was like, buddy, come in here. You picked the right person. We gave each other a hug. He started like choking up and started like, his bottom lip started wobbling. I was like, okay, got a bit more personal. Anyway, I recognised the lady behind him from the pictures. She came up and gave me a hug also. And at one point, we was in this 3-way tangent hug of beautifulness. It was cracking fun, good fun. Anyway, at the very end of it all, his daughter pulled away and said, "Thank you, Dan. You've saved my family." You can't tell, but I'm already getting choked up thinking about it. She went, "Thank you." And what had happened 2 years prior to that, John had made some mistakes, and his daughter said, "You're not seeing me or your grandkids ever again." And that happened, unfortunately. Anyway, John wanted to use the photo album to get a connection back with him. And on Christmas Day, he went round to his daughter's house and gave her the photo book. And she welcomed him in, open arms, back in with the kids. And his grandkids were there with him in the February as well. And he just wanted to show that he did care and he loved his family. And he wanted to do that with the photo album, showing all the good times that they'd had. And he openly said, "Daniel, you did that for me." I broke down at that point. Instantly, I was a freaking mess of just this puddle of emotions. Anyway, at the end of that day, I left home and I went back to my partner, we're still together now, Marina, she's called. I went, "Marina, I found my career. I want to help people from now on." And I was like, that was it. And for 10 years, I did learning development. And you know what? Never looking back until I saw an opportunity coming available where my two worlds communicated, games and helping people, where I saw an nDreams advertising and learning development manager. Then I applied for it, openly said that in my cover letter. I told the story about John. I told the story about me, my gaming, my upbringing. And they openly said the only reason I got the job was because my cover letter. There was other people more qualified for the role than I was, but they gave it me because of that. What's more compelling, what I do or why I do something? I hope that's amazing is towards the second one, Jordan. But yeah, you guys need to do that now as well. Why is it you're wanting to get into the games industry? Why is it you're wanting to get into your discipline of choice? Why and all of that? Please articulate that in your cover letters. If you like, what I'll do is, if it's okay with Jordan, Jordan, what I'll do is I'll send you, if that's okay, my CV and my cover letter so you can see it as a bit of an example that I'm not just bullshitting you. This is exactly the words that I put inside there. Option A made me realise you can kick our ass. Picture show that why you're so passionate. Yeah, thank you, Mark. I'm an absolute coward, really. I use the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a clutch and helps me build confidence because it helped me deal with claustrophobia mainly. I wish it was for anything more than a badass reason. It was more of a badass reason, but it's not. But yeah, so John, if it's okay, I'll share my CV and my cover letter with yourself, and then if you can share it out with everybody, that'd be freaking stellar. But your two strongest parts of your application is your portfolio, getting those 5 to 6 clear examples of process, and your cover letter, why you're doing something or what you want to do. Cool. Your ears are probably bleeding from that sort of me rambling on. So does anybody have any questions? Bloody hell, I'm melting, by the way. It's gross of the puddle that I'm sat in. Oh, is there character art role too? Is character art requested? No. Actually, design, if I go from the top bottom, design is the most saturated by quite some. After that, probably concept, but that's because it picks from so many different fields. Then after that, maybe prop art, and then after that, probably character after that one. The three on the opposite end of the spectrum, the three most sought after job roles: technical artist for you programmers out there, VFX artist, and UI and UX artist. They're three that just needed. And you're more than welcome, everybody. Jordan, I'm going to peel away the t-shirt now just to paint you a picture. I'm going to then migrate to the sofa, turn on the fan and play an ungodly amount of Stardew Valley, and then just feel sorry for myself and recover because I've topped out my hour. Sounds like a great plan. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Again, by the way, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, please feel free and throw any questions along there. My LinkedIn is Daniel Woodward, would you believe? Oh, Dan Allen Woodward, should I say? And you'll be able to find me on there. I've got sort of a black denim top on and behind like sort of a starry background. Cool beans.